Our movie begins with Nancy telling us that she lives a beautiful and stable life with her husband Fred and their son Harry. We learn that Nancy lives in a small town in Michigan, which is very quiet, and everyone knows each other. The town is known for its annual festival called the Medieval Festival, and the residents spend most of the year preparing for it. Before the festival, they dress in medieval costumes and take pictures. Fred, Nancy's husband, has lived there since he was born and works as an eye doctor. Everyone in town loves him. One day, Fred met Nancy in another state, fell in love with her, married her, and brought her to live in the town. She loved it there and felt safe and stable. After some time, they had their only son, Harry, and they lived happily together for 14 years. Life was beautiful, like a perfect morning. One day, Nancy lost one of her earrings and searched for it everywhere in the house, but she couldn't find it. She accused their nanny, Candy, of stealing it and fired her from the house. This made Harry angry because he loved the nanny and was sure she hadn't stolen the earring. He spoke to his father about it, and Fred promised to solve the problem when he got home. When Fred returned, he asked Nancy if she had searched thoroughly for the earring. She told him she had, but couldn't find it. Fred mentioned he was traveling for a conference and would be away for a few days. Nancy didn't object to him leaving. The next day, Nancy went to work at the school. After her class, she spoke to her friend Dave, a teacher who had recently joined the school. Dave is of Mexican origin, and when he learned about the earring incident, he wondered how Candy could benefit from just one earring. Nancy insisted that Candy was the thief. Later, Dave saw a car near the school playground, which he recognized as the car of the school bus driver who had been fired for drinking while driving. Dave also mentioned that he was teaching the bus driver's son in a woodshop class. He asked Nancy when Fred would return, as he hadn't seen him around lately. Nancy replied he would be back in 2 days. That evening, when Nancy went to pick up Harry from school, he asked if he could stay at his friend's house. Nancy initially refused but later agreed, thinking it would make him happy. That night, Nancy stayed home alone, watching a movie. When she got bored, she called Fred at the hotel, only to be told by the receptionist that Fred was not in his room. Feeling suspicious, Nancy decided to investigate and went to the garage, where she found a box containing a camera that Fred had been using. This made her suspicious that something was wrong. When Fred returned, Nancy found a parking ticket in his pants pocket from Madison, which confused her since he had told her the conference was in Frankenmuth. She later found out Fred had been in Frankenmuth after all, as he had brought them food from a famous restaurant there. The next day, Nancy told Dave that she suspected Fred was seeing someone else and shared her doubts with him. Dave tried to reassure her, saying that Fred was an eye doctor and not someone who would cheat. A while later, Fred told Nancy he would be traveling to a town called Greenfield for 3 days for a conference. Nancy was upset, but Fred managed to calm her down with a few kind words. That night, Nancy decided to investigate further. She went to Fred's office with Dave's help, planning to search his desk. Dave, being handy with locks and tools, helped Nancy break into the office. The next day, Dave went to the clinic to check on Fred's eyes, and while there, he made a visit to Fred's office to help Nancy with her plan. Fred, however, got suspicious and discovered that Nancy had been in his office, finding clues that made her feel even more certain about his infidelity. Nancy later shared her findings with Dave, and Dave advised her to be cautious, telling her not to act impulsively. However, Nancy felt she had uncovered enough to confront Fred. Nancy returned home that evening and, in the morning, found Fred asking her if she had spent the night with her friend. Nancy confirmed that she had. Fred, noticing her fatigue, tried to ease the tension. He asked her to rest, but Nancy was still troubled. At that time, she calls the bank and finds out that Freddie paid $300 with the card she found in his office at a large jewelry store in a place called Grand Rapids. When she finishes the call, she finds the missing slipper inside her drawer, placed on her desk. When she returns to her room, she finds a gift box on her nightstand, and inside is part of the chain that fell off in the office. Her husband is standing behind her, so she apologizes for what she did, asks for his forgiveness, and promises him that she will not search for it again. She assures him that she will always make him proud. The next day, she, her husband, and their son are at a school event, and at that moment, Nancy imagines that Dave is standing in front of her, and the story doesn't end there. She keeps thinking about him all the time, and he also can't forget her. One day, Dave is at the bar when Nancy surprises him with a call, telling him that she is willing to leave her husband to be with him. He tells her that it's not as easy as she imagines and informs her that her husband is a well-known figure in town, and everyone will sympathize with him. It will turn their lives into a living nightmare, and if she only sees her son once a month, that would be good. He says there is one solution: they need to find Fred Red and prove that he is cheating on her. Later, we find out that her husband traveled again, and she doesn't waste the opportunity. She goes to drop her son at school and asks her friend to pick up Harry and keep him with her son until she returns to take them. Afterward, we see her with Dave in his car, outside the hotel where her husband told her he would stay. Of course, they are watching him to track his movements, take pictures, and catch him in the act of cheating. As soon as Freddie leaves the hotel, they follow him in the car, and they see him buying things from multiple stores. Later, he returns to the hotel. Nancy insists on taking a snapshot to know what he bought. Dave enters the hotel, finds his room number, and sends it to her in a message. Of course, she doesn't doubt it. At that time, Freddie is in the hotel bar, and Dave sits nearby to keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, Nancy checks the bags and finds dog food and handcuffs. She takes pictures of them. When Freddie leaves the bar, Dave quickly calls her, and she leaves the room at the last moment. Afterward, she gets into the car with Dave and tells him about the things she found in the bags. They both drive off in the car. When she wakes up the next morning and returns to the city, Dave is still waiting by the hotel in his car. When she gets home, she goes to the garage and uses a magnifying glass to read the names of houses and streets. When she searches these names, the shock comes: she discovers that all the houses had murder cases, and all the victims were girls and women, with the police unable to find the killers. She's shocked to realize that her husband is a serial killer. Meanwhile, Dave is following Freddie's car until he reaches a house by the lake. He sees a woman greeting Freddie and also notices some dogs living with them in the house. When he tries to take pictures, he can't because of the distance. He grabs his camera and sneaks into the house, while Nancy keeps calling him to warn him, but he left the phone in the car. Dave approaches Freddie's bedroom and is shocked when he sees him killing the woman. Because of the tension, Freddie notices him and chases him. He tries to kill Dave, but Dave defends himself. He manages to stab Freddie, who runs toward the lake to escape by boat, but Freddie doesn't make it. When Dave stabs him again, he falls into the lake. Quickly, Dave burns his clothes that have Freddie's blood on them and tells Nancy to confront Freddie and show him the pictures, telling him that if he stays away from them, they won't expose him. Freddie agrees and promises to stay away. Even though this wasn't logical, Nancy wants to believe that she and her son are safe. Of course, she believes Dave. When he asks her if they, along with Harry, can leave the city, she refuses, saying that after the Tulip Festival, the three of them will go on vacation to a remote place. A vacation in peace, away from everything. She adds that everyone will suspect that they are involved in Freddie's disappearance, and he agrees with her. After that, Dave starts having nightmares about Freddie chasing him. He goes out of his house, digs up something in front of his house, and takes out a box with his weapon inside, so he can protect himself in case Freddie shows up again. On the day of the festival, Nancy is startled when her friend tells her that she saw Freddie a little while ago. Nancy gets nervous and goes to look for him. She also sees him from a distance and quickly pulls out her weapon, but suddenly Freddie disappears. When Dave sees Nancy, he grabs her hand and tells her to stay there, explaining that he saw Freddie at the festival. She tells him to let go, and she goes home with her son. They arrive at their house by the lake, and Dave is following them in his car. When they arrive home, Nancy is very nervous and closes all the curtains. She tells her son to go into the room and lock the door. Then, she opens the door for Dave, who tells her that he saw Freddie at the festival, even though he's sure he drowned in the lake. She tells him to wait and accuses him of lying. He explains that he didn't want to scare her because Freddie wanted to kill him. He says he's tired and will call the police to confess everything. As he goes to the landline, she pulls him away, telling him that her son's life will be ruined, and she won't let that happen. When Dave tries to grab the phone from her, she pushes him, and he falls on the ground. The phone lands on him, and he's badly hurt. She's terrified when she finds a large wound on his head. She tells him to stay there while she goes to find someone to help. When she enters her son's room, she finds that he's gone. She runs out of the house and searches for him. She eventually finds him standing outside with his father by the lake. She's scared and approaches them, telling her son to wait in the car. Afterward, she tells Dave that she never wanted to hurt him. He replies that he's always protected her from Freddie and never allowed him into their home. Nancy, terrified, can't say anything, and Dave tells her to clean herself and her clothes in the lake, so they can go back home. She agrees and asks to go help him. He tells her not to worry. Later, we see the three of them in the car on their way home. Nancy points to her son and then grabs the wheel, forcing Dave to stop the car. She screams at her son to escape. At that moment, Nancy pulls out Dave's gun and aims it at Freddie. Freddie hears a gunshot coming from inside the car. When he runs toward them, he sees that Freddie has been shot in the face. As Nancy tries to get out of the car, Freddie grabs her. At that moment, Harry tries to stop Freddie from hurting his mom. Freddie pushes Harry to the ground, but Nancy doesn't let go. She takes off her shoe and starts hitting him until Freddie dies. She reassures her son, takes him with her, and returns home. When she looks for Dave, the film ends. Now, here's the shocking twist: there was no Freddie in her life. The person she was hitting earlier was actually Dave, her husband. Freddie was a character from her imagination, and Nancy was living in a fantasy world. It turns out that she had been suffering from a psychological disorder all along. We were fooled, thinking she was the victim of cheating, but it was all in her mind. The film ends there. Please, leave a like and share your opinion in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and turn on the bell to receive new updates. See you in the next movie.